Inside this room, there's brilliant animation being done. The geniuses, as they are hard at work. That's good too. Ooh! Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome back. I'm Sir Wade, and today we are rewinding 2 weeks to when I was back in Vancouver for the thing you just saw the montage of. I don't need to tell you about it, because you get it. So today's video, I'm gonna bring you back to what I was filming in Vancouver. I was just keeping track of what I was learning each day, some highlights that I thought were super important that I'm excited to share with you from the Epic Intensive. So with that, enjoy. We're here in Vancouver, Canada at Vancouver Film School. We're at the halfway point, so I thought I'd make a little video just to give an update, talk about some stuff that we've learned up here. So share with you some cool tips, tricks, advice. Let's get into it. So day one was Tracy Burns. Tracy is an acting and performance consultant. She's an actor herself, and I actually met her back in DreamWorks, which is fun. But something really interesting that she was telling us, very often in animation, we try to animate emotion. You know, you say, oh, make him mad, make him happy, whatever. Now that's usually, especially when you're a student and you're just learning this stuff, you usually go to animating an emotion as some kind of a reaction. Like, oh, then he reacts and it's an emotion. He gets mad, he gets happy, whatever. She said something really interesting. It's that you can't animate an emotion. It just doesn't work that way, because emotion isn't a reaction. It's not just a thing you can do. It's something that you feel, which sounds obvious in this case, but where this was leading is that emotion comes through thought and action in specific circumstances, which is all about specificity in character, something that every instructor here has been talking a lot about, specificity and making your character to have a certain personality, character traits, a mind of their own, to react in a unique way special to them, right? If you watch JP's acting subtext video, you kind of have an idea of what we're talking about, because it's the same type of thing. If you're gonna animate someone getting mad, you don't just animate them mad, because that's boring. You give them a circumstance, you give them a thought process, and then you have them act on it. And that combination of things, when done thoughtfully, can give you and convey an emotion, depending on how you play it. And then how strong is that emotion? Is it something that they want? Is it something that they need? Is it something that they aren't really sure how to deal with? All these different things, and she had all these questions, and she actually, I mean, this was a 7-hour lecture that encapsulated way more than what I'm talking about right now. But that was something that I put a little star next to in my notes, that you can't just animate a reaction. It's circumstance, thought, and action boiled together to give you a specific character choice that you need to figure out who that character is that you're animating before you can decide, oh, he's mad, what does that look like? Well, it depends on a bunch of different factors. So that's a little nugget of some stuff that I learned on the first day that I wanted to share with you. So let's go talk about day two. Day two was Sean Kelly, who has been in ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, for 20-something years, I think, and helped co-found Animation Mentor, my school. Now, towards the end of his lecture, we had a combat animation section where we talked about how to animate fight scenes and combat and different stuff like that. So I wanted to share a few tips that I learned from that section. In fact, I'm going to share 3, because I know there's lots of you out there doing various different things, so I want to give you 3 different tips for combat animation. Here we go. First is that every good fight scene, should be clear on its own, but it should also be very clear who is winning at what time, and that change in the power dynamics should be not obvious so it's in your face, but obvious enough that you understand what's happening in the fight, who's winning, who's losing, and when that shifts, because that's what makes a fight interesting, is when somebody's winning, ha ha ha, suddenly, oh, this person's winning, and that back and forth is where you can have some fun. Now the next thing is camera moves. Fight scenes generally have a lot of camera cuts or moves or specific choices when it comes to the camera, and that needs to be true. You need to have specific choices for what you're doing with your camera so you don't disorient your audience. And we will have a video on camera animation coming soon. I know you guys have been asking for it. It's happening. When you're doing a fight scene, you want to make sure that your camera is being motivated by your character's movements, not the other way around. So in other words, the camera shouldn't move and then the characters go that way. You want the characters to go first and the camera to be like, oh, I gotta catch that. And imagine there's a real camera person back there trying to film the fight. They shouldn't be exactly in sync with the people, because that would be too choreographed. And then if the camera points this way because they know someone's going to get hit over here, that's kind of it just takes you out of it, because then you know to expect something, and then it's not surprising when someone lands a good hit. So your characters should drive the action, and the camera should work with it in this nice choreography. Now the last thing has to do with animating a character using weapons. Now whether that's just the fists, or sword, or a blaster, or whatever, different rules apply when you're animating these things. Now we've all done this, we've all downloaded a rig, downloaded a sword, maybe the character comes with a sword, and we just start going, right? But something interesting that Sean was sharing is that the power of an attack with a sword or something like that doesn't come from the tip of the blade, doesn't come from the edge, it comes from the weight of the body. You know, even if you were just talking about, you know, fists, if you have two characters fighting and one of them just throws a punch, if you have one person to throw a punch, just a jab with just, you know, just the fist, just the weapon itself, it's okay, but get the body involved, really use the weight of the body, the twist and the torque, and all the forces you have at your disposal. By the way, despite my appearance, I'm not a fighter. I don't actually know that much about fighting. All I know is that if you engage the hips, chest, and the shoulders, you're going to get a much more powerful hit than if you just jab, right? And it's the same with a sword or any other weapon, an axe, a war hammer, whatever it is you've got. If you just have a character using that, and you're treating the end of the weapon as the weapon, you're missing an opportunity to invest a lot more power and punch into that moment in your fight scene. So don't forget about the mass, the transfer of energy, all the different things in your body mechanics that can help sell your fight scenes to make them much more interesting and painful looking. Because ultimately, your characters are fighting, they probably want to hurt each other. They don't want to just throw these little punches and jabs and, you know, slash with the sword. They're really trying to do some damage. So you should be doing everything you can to promote that thought in their head. It's kind of what we talked about before. If they're, you know, if they're thinking about something, they have a thought process, they're trying to do something in this fight, they're trying to win this fight, they're going to use their body weight. So make sure you're putting that in there. Good? Good. All right, on to day 3. Day 3 was Daniel Klug. Daniel's an animator at Disney, and he had a lot of really cool stuff. Actually, his presentation, I want to say like 80% of it, I'd never heard anything. Everything he talked about, I've never heard any of it before, ever, from anybody. It was cool. There was stuff on smear frames, there was stuff on duplicates. A tip he had on phrasing. Now, phrasing is the rhythm of a shot, which confuses a lot of students. I know when I heard that as a student, you know, the shot has to have a rhythm. I didn't really know what that meant. I didn't know how to do that. Now, he summed it up in a really nice way. You make the big things bigger, you make the small things smaller. By doing that, it gives you an emphasis at a specific moment that you choose that not everything always has to be moving around all the time, because if you're thinking and you know, when things are always moving, you don't know what to look at. So when things stop, there's a lot of contrast. Now, you don't always want this giant motion all the time, unless you do. Stylistic choices could dictate different thing. But ultimately it comes down to when you want something to have its moment, to be the most important part in your shot, you need to choose what's the most important thing, make the big things bigger, make the small things smaller, so that whatever that is, in whichever direction, it stands out. And most importantly, it's clear. Now again, when you hear things in this video that pique your interest and you're like, ooh, I really want a video on that topic, drop it in the comments so that I know. And if there's something that you have questions on, you want to talk about it more in depth, jump over on Twitch. I stream 3 days a week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, so we can hang out and talk about animation there as well. Now I've got to stop with the stunts because it's getting really hot. So let's roll on in to day 4. So day 4 was Michael Makarovich. He is the one running the show here. The Animation Collaborative is his school, and I already talked about that in another video if you want to see the review. But either way, the tip from day 4 that I want to share with you a little bit is the importance of a neutral facial expression. The idea that you don't just go from one extreme expression to another. That you need a moment in the middle, a beat, to see the character have a change that allows them to go from one to the other. For example, if we were going from happy to concerned, oftentimes you'll see it animated like this. One to the other, and it just comes across as bad acting. Versus if you give it a second, give it that beat in the middle to relax and go back to a neutral expression, it just gives you a second to see that the character is actually thinking. Now you're caught up so far. Day 4 was yesterday, today is the break day in between. And starting tomorrow, there's 4 more days of instruction, a couple more with Mike, and then 2 other animators that we have not heard from yet. I'm very excited. If you choose to animate that, tag me, I wanna see. I feel like I should post a video just of me doing ridiculous things for reference, and you guys can just pull from it whatever you want. What do we think about that idea? Yeah, let me know. After those 4 days, I got busy and I stopped filming. So if you want to know more about what we learned in that workshop, the other 4 days afterwards, and the highlights that I wanted to share with you, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the new uploads, because I will be sharing some exciting things that we talked about in the workshop. And if you want to talk about it live with me, head over to Twitch. I go live on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, and we'll be talking animation, and I will be animating and doing a lot of demos of the stuff that I learned as I practice it and try to get good. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end. You guys are the best. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I will see you in the next video.